For decades, the Indian consumer market was driven by survival. Investment strategies focused on the sheer volume of people trying to meet daily needs. If you wanted to capture consumer spending, you bought into fast-moving consumer goods. You invested in basic staples, simple utilities, and soap. You were betting on 1 billion people simply getting through the week. This graph maps India's per capita income over the last 10 years. Notice what happens right here in 2024. The curve crosses the $2,880 mark. That specific number acts as an economic tripwire. Once a developing economy clears that specific income threshold, the population's baseline needs are largely secured. The extra capital stops flowing toward extra rice or toothpaste and begins flowing into discretionary spending, shifting the national focus from surviving to aspirational living. With those basic needs met, retail spending begins a steep climb. Forecasts project the resale market hitting $2 trillion over the next 10 years, driven entirely by demand for high-end retail, digital entertainment, and luxury travel. Currently, the national penetration for aspirational goods remains exceptionally low. Only 15% of Indian households own a washing machine, a mere 10% own a car, and only 8% have air conditioning. The runway for physical growth in these exact showrooms is massive. The problem for investors is that traditional consumption index funds fail to capture this new reality. They remain mathematically anchored to the old survival economy. Attempting to capture this incoming wave of premium spending using a legacy index is essentially using a map from 2010 to navigate the economy of today. To solve this structural misalignment, the Mirae Asset Nifty India New Age Consumption ETF was engineered with a completely different rule set. Looking at this side-by-side sector comparison, you can see the algorithmic surgery taking place. The traditional index dedicates nearly 29% of its weight to FMCG. The New Age Index responds by dropping that allocation to zero, while also stripping out banks, power, and healthcare entirely. All of that freed-up capital is immediately rerouted. Passenger cars and utility vehicles receive a 15.4% weight. Real estate commercial projects take 10%, and e-commerce takes another 7.2%. That 10% weighting in real estate translates directly to the concrete reality of modern Indian cities. The skyline is physically shifting to accommodate this new wealth. This chart tracking residential square feet sold during the first half of the year verifies the momentum. Sales show a steep, uninterrupted climb from 12.5 million square feet in 2020 straight up to 34.8 million in 2024. By mechanically filtering out basic necessities, the index isolates the specific companies benefiting from the Indian consumer's rapidly expanding list of wants. The construction of this portfolio starts wide, pulling eligible candidates from the top 500 largest companies on the National Stock Exchange. This funnel visualizes the selection mechanics. It takes that massive Nifty 500 block and aggressively filters it down into 24 distinct basic industries, targeting specific areas like digital entertainment, fintech, and commercial airlines. From there, the rules dictate that the index must select the single largest stock from every one of those 24 industries. The remaining slots are filled based on free float market cap, outputting a highly concentrated list of exactly 75 companies. To manage volatility, the methodology applies strict balancing caps. No individual stock can exceed 5% of the total portfolio, and no single sector can break a hard 25% limit. Currently, consumer services is the only sector hitting that maximum 25% threshold, solidifying its position as the anchor of the index. These mathematical boundaries ensure the fund remains evenly distributed across the entire spectrum of discretionary spending, preventing overexposure to any single trend. While the Indian consumer has clearly matured, there is an equally crucial upgrade happening on the other side of the transaction, the investors themselves. Historically, Indian markets were highly vulnerable to global panics, but recent market data confirms a structural decoupling from international volatility. The dominance over the equity market has officially shifted away from foreign institutional investors and directly into the hands of domestic institutional investors. This mirrored chart illustrates the absorption effect. In late 2024, foreign investors pulled a record 1.14 lakh crore rupees out of the market. But a massive surge in domestic retail savings, largely driven by monthly systemic investment plans, injected nearly an identical amount right back in. The domestic buying perfectly buffered the foreign sell-off. With domestic capital consistently crossing the 20,000 crore mark monthly, the market has built an endogenous shock absorber. It no longer requires foreign capital to maintain a bull run. We are watching a dual economic upgrade unfold in real time. Consumers are deploying newfound wealth into aspirational goods, and domestic investors are deploying massive savings to stabilize the very markets funding that growth. You can see the result in the physical infrastructure of the country. Advanced domestic manufacturing and modern assembly lines are running at full capacity to meet this internal demand. The definition of Indian consumption has permanently detached from basic survival, tethering itself entirely to the expansion of an ascending middle class. The Mirae Asset Nifty India New Age Consumption ETF was engineered to capture this specific transition, algorithmically weighting itself to track this new momentum. It provides a precise mathematical reflection of a wealthier, self-sustaining economy, one where citizens are actively funding and driving their own growth.